This was materialized by Sai Baba in early 1970. It was my first visit to Baba, and the day before I was to leave, he looked at me and he acknowledged that I was leaving, and then with his hand made that motion, closed his fist, and when he opened it, there it was.
As a diamond glows, so shall the light on the tower of the Lord, the prophet of the new age. One stone on his finger is worth more than all the world's treasures. Even those who by accident help the teachings of the prophet will receive in return 100-fold. Already many warriors of the teaching of truth are reborn. Only a few years shall elapse before everyone shall hear the mighty steps of the Lord of the new era.
As we perceive our Earth in totality, the interrelatedness of humanity becomes more and more apparent. We recognize that the physical elements required for our sustenance bind us, if not yet together, at least to a common condition. The spiritual elements connecting mankind have been regenerated again and again at crucial moments throughout history by messiahs, prophets, and avatars. This phenomena of spiritual regeneration is occurring again in our time. Those with ears to hear are beginning to listen. The voice is that of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, revered by millions as a divine incarnation, an avatar. While described by the London Times as the most impressive holy man in centuries, he himself says his life is his message. He lives it openly and invites the scrutiny of those who would believe, not through blind faith, but through inquiry and reason.
The South Indian village of Puttaparthi is nestled along the Chitravati River at the foot of a circle of barren hills 127 miles north of Bangalore. Puttaparthi is too small to be found on any map. It is miles from the nearest highway and approachable only over unpaved roads. The village is blessed with 3 temples and a mosque. Its people live their lives and farm their land, much as their ancestors have over the past centuries. At sunrise on the morning of November 23rd, 1926, the prayers of a pious Hindu woman were answered when she gave birth to a son in a small house which formerly stood on this site. Witnesses recall untouched musical instruments resounding on their own in the house, and a mysterious cobra, a traditional sign of divinity, was later found under the newborn baby. The child was named Satya Narayana Raju. As he grew, it became apparent young Satya, whose name means truth in Sanskrit, was different from other children. He was helpful to the villagers, doing work unselfishly. Called Guru by his playmates, he led them in devotional songs before school, and fascinated and amused them by materializing candy, pencils, and playthings from an empty bag. The miraculous ability to create objects, transform matter, and heal the sick, which manifested spontaneously in the child, has continued for over 40 years to amaze all who experience it. In May of 1940, 13-year-old Sathya put aside his school books and announced to his startled family that he was the reincarnation of a holy man named Sai Baba of Shirdi. While unknown in the region around Puttaparthi, Sai Baba of Shirdi was revered in the north by Muslims and Hindus. He dressed like a Muslim, but wore ash on his forehead in the Hindu custom. He slept one night in a mosque, the next in a temple. At a time and place where religious rivalries had caused wars, he achieved peace and mutual respect between the faiths by his example. As he was dying, Sai Baba of Shirdi told his followers he would reincarnate in 8 years. 8 years later, Satya Narayana was born. After revealing his identity in 1940, young Satya told his parents he belonged with them no longer, explaining his devotees were calling and it was time for him to go. He left school in October of his 13th year and began to gather followers around him. At first, there were few disciples and he lived in comparative obscurity. As more and more began to recognize his exceptional nature, he said to them, "You have easy access to me now. A few years hence, you will have to get a glimpse of me standing miles away. There will be such crowds." The young man's fame spread throughout the region. When Satya reached the age of 20, his elder brother, a school teacher in a neighboring township, wrote him a letter expressing concern about the dangers inherent in fame and public attention. Satya responded to these concerns in a letter written May 25, 1947, in which he said, in part,
"My dear one, let me tell you, it is impossible to plumb the hearts and discover the natures of those who have acquired spiritual wisdom. We have to stick to our own right path without getting affected by popular appraisal. It is not the way of the great to swell when people offer worship and shrink when people scoff. They themselves know the path they must tread. Their wisdom regulates and makes their acts holy. Self-reliance, beneficial activity, these two are their special marks. Why should you be affected by worry as long as I am adhering to these two? After all, the praise and blame of the populace do not touch the reality. They can only touch the outer physical frame. I have a task to foster all mankind and ensure for all lives full of bliss. I will not give up my mission nor my determination. I know I will carry them out. I treat the honor and the dishonor, the fame and blame that may be the consequence with equal equanimity. I act and move only for the sake of mankind. No one can comprehend my glory, whoever he is, whatever his method of inquiry, however long his attempt. You can yourself see the full glory in the coming years." I have no need to write these words. I write them because I felt you would be pained if I do not reply. Thus, your Baba.
So it was that in 1947, Sathya Sai Baba gave his elder brother a prophetic glimpse into the future. In the early years, there was no ashram at Puttaparthi. Then, in 1950, construction of a prayer hall began at the foot of a hill on the outskirts of the village. Soon, other buildings were added, and a name was given, Prashanti Nilayam, the abode of peace. Although the prayer hall would be changed in later years, Sai Baba still lives there in the 2 small rooms built for him at this time. The early ashram was large enough to accommodate the increasing numbers of devotees who found themselves drawn to this young man. During the 1960s, as Sai Baba's name spread throughout India, religious festivals regularly attracted 20 or 30,000 followers to this remote spot. Hindus of differing sects, Muslims, Sikhs, and Christians, people who remembered well the religious wars following the partition of their country by the British in 1947, less than 20 years before, now came to experience the healing and unifying power of Sai Baba's message of universal love. By the 1970s, people from all over the world had begun to visit Prashanti Nilayam, and it became necessary to rebuild much of the ashram to accommodate the vast numbers, up to 100,000 now on a festival day. The personal freedom of a carefree village boy gradually had become the confinement of one without privacy, watched constantly by devotees hoping for a look or a word, a willing captive of the love he inspired. What has intrigued observers of Sai Baba's life is not only how his birth completed the prophecy of Sai Baba of Shirdi, and his life has carried out the prophecy in the letter to his brother, but how, to a remarkable degree, he has also fulfilled a scriptural prophecy made more than 5,000 years ago. In the Mahabharata, the ancient Hindu testament, Lord Vishnu, the preserver and protector of the universe, foretold of a Kali Yuga corresponding to our present age, which would be marked by moral and spiritual decline, by political corruption, oppression, dishonesty, crime, and the prevalence of falsehood. Then Lord Vishnu said,
"When evil is rampant upon earth, I will take birth in the family of a virtuous man and assume a human body to restore tranquility by the extermination of evils. In the coming Kali age of sin, I will assume a human avatar form that is dark in color. I will be born in a family in South India. This avatar will possess great energy, great intelligence, and great powers. Material objects needed for this avatar's mission will be at his disposal as soon as he will think of them. He will be victorious with the strength of virtue. He will restore order and peace in the world. This avatar will inaugurate a new era of truth and will be surrounded by spiritual people. He will roam over the earth adored by the spiritual people. The people of this earth will imitate this avatar's conduct, and there will be prosperity and peace. Men will once more betake themselves to the practice of religious rites. Educational centers for the cultivation of Brahmic lore and temples will reappear again everywhere. Ashrams will be filled with men of truth. Rulers of the earth will govern their kingdoms virtuously. The avatar will have an illustrious reputation."
This prophecy is corroborated in the ancient classic scripture, the Vishnu Purana, which also mentions that this avatar will display superhuman powers in establishing the new age of truth. It adds, his parents will be devotees of Vishnu and will reside in a village worshipping the cowherd form of Lord Krishna. In fact, Sai Baba's mother and grandmother worshipped the aspect of Vishnu called Satya Narayana for months before he was born, and Puttaparthi village was formerly Golapali, meaning home of the cowherds. So it is that the life of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba appears to be fulfilling ancient prophecies and scriptures. The city of Bombay is India, in fact the world in microcosm. It contains the sophistication of contemporary life over a layer of poverty and need which reflects the timelessness of the human condition. The spiritual teachings of Sathya Sai Baba are addressed with directness and simplicity to the hearts of all people. The difficulty lies not in understanding them, but in putting them into practice in daily life. In August of 1976, Sathya Sai Baba granted his first interview to a member of the press. The interviewer was R.K. Karanjia, editor-in-chief of a weekly magazine called Blitz, printed in Bombay with a circulation in the millions. The circumstances surrounding the interview are important in view of the spirit of inquiry with which Sai Baba encourages everyone to come to him. Karanjia was an avowed Marxist and considered himself a sophisticated atheist with no use or regard for the spiritual traditions of his country. Blitz magazine reflected his attitude. His decision to travel to South India to visit Sai Baba was the result of a challenge made by a colleague who confronted Karanjia with the fact that it was inconsistent to consider himself an objective reporter when he had formed his opinions about Sathya Sai Baba without ever having seen or met him. Karanjia agreed and made plans to go to Sai Baba's ashram. During the course of his visit, he was granted an interview. He later wrote,
Baba not only radiated powerful emanations of what I could only describe as spiritual love and grace, but went on to amaze me with knowledge of the most intimate developments affecting my life and work. He appeared also to know beforehand the questions I had planned to ask. As soon as I began asking one, he would stop me with a gentle tap on the knee to begin answering it. I never completed the question. Still, I got all the answers.
This experience convinced Karanjia of the truth of Baba's words and inspired profound changes in his life. Much of the following narration has been drawn from Sai Baba's responses during that interview. As we hear his words, we will see him walking among his devotees at Prashanti Nilayam, accepting their letters and occasionally manifesting vibhuti ash. We will see him at Vrindavan, next to the site of the Sathya Sai Baba College for Men, in a rural South Indian village, and at the Dharmakshetra, a center for service activities in Bombay.
God is man and man is God. All of us have something of God, the divine spark within us. All men are divine like myself, but with a spirit embodied in human flesh and bone. The only difference is that they are unaware of this godhood. They have come into this karmic prison through the mistakes of many lives. I have taken this mortal form out of my own free will. They are bound to the body, while I am free of this bondage. The main difference is that they are shoved hither and thither by desire, but I have no desire except the Supreme One to make them desireless. Whenever strife, discord, and disharmony overwhelm the world, God incarnates in human form to show mankind the way to love, harmony, and peace. The avatar takes a human form and behaves in a human way so that humanity can feel kinship with divinity. At the same time, he rises to godly heights so that mankind also can aspire to reach God. The realization of the indwelling God as the motivator of life is the task for which avatars come in human form. Therefore, in my present avatar, I have come armed with the fullness of the power of the formless God to correct mankind, raise human consciousness, and put people back on the right path of truth, righteousness, peace, and love to divinity. The vibhuti ash I materialize is a manifestation of divinity with a potent significance as well as symbolization. It is symbolic of the cosmic, immortal, and infinite nature of all forms of God, Atma, or the Spirit. That is, what is left when everything worldly, transient, and changeable has burnt away. In the first place, it is symbolic of the life-death cycle in which everything ultimately reduces itself to ash. For dust thou art, and unto dust shall thou returnest. Ash or dust is the final condition of things. It cannot undergo any further change. In the spiritual context, vibhuti constitutes a warning to the receiver to give up desire, to burn all passions, attachments, and temptations in the fires of worship, which makes one pure in thought, word, and deed. It is in order to press home this lesson that I materialize ash for those who come to me with love and devotion. Like the other materializations, it also acts as a talisman, healing the sick and giving protection to those who need it. It is a symbol of divinity, quite different from magic trickery. My powers to protect, heal, save people, and materialize objects originate in God and can be used only by an avatar.
An avatar is known by 16 signs. The first 15 are control of the 5 functions of the body, control of the 5 senses of the body, and control of the 5 elements of nature. These qualities are attainable through spiritual practices and disciplines. It is the 16th quality, unattainable through human evolution and existing only in the descent of a divine incarnation, which brings Sathya Sai Baba's miraculous powers into perspective. Called omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence, it is infinite consciousness. Einstein recognized the law in nature which says energy equals matter multiplied by the square of the speed of light, E equals mc squared. Thus, science proved the ancient yogic precept that matter and energy are 2 sides of the same coin, and it began to recognize matter as condensed energy moving along a continuum of constantly changing forms. The transformation of matter to energy and energy into matter occurs at the speed of light, in the realm of light. That same light which has been perceived throughout time in all religions as divine energy. An avatar is able to materialize and dematerialize objects, to direct his awareness throughout the cosmos, to move with the speed of light, and use the power of light in his mission. Unencumbered by demands of the body or laws of nature, his consciousness is one with the primal energy of creation, and is, therefore, infinite. To one with infinite consciousness, free even from space and time, what may appear to us as miraculous is the simple interplay of primary forces. Sai Baba is seen here accepting letters from his devotees in which they ask for his help, blessings, or a much sought-after personal interview.
The miracles I perform belong to the boundless power of God. So far as I am concerned, they are evidence of my divinity. It is not by any means an exhibition of divinity. All performances of magic, as you know, are done for the sake of income. These are tricks of the magician's trade. They constitute a kind of legalized cheating, the transfer of an object from one place to another by a trick of the hand which goes unnoticed. They involve no city or miraculous power. What I do is quite a different act of creation. It is neither magic, nor is it city power either. For one thing, I seek no return. For another, I do not cheat people by transferring objects, but I create them. Again, I do so not because of any need or desire of exhibition of my powers. For me, this is a kind of visiting card to convince people of my love for them and secure their devotion in return. Since love is formless, I use materialization as evidence of my love. It is merely a symbol. Most people desire talismans symbolic of my protection, so I provide them. When they are in trouble, they feel the grip of the ring, bracelet, or watch to remember me and call me to their rescue so that I can help them. On the other hand, if I give them something they cannot wear, they are likely to store it and forget about it. These trinkets or talismans give people a sense of security and protection they need in time of trouble or crisis, and create a symbolic link covering the long distances between them and myself. When the devotees need me, these objects flash the message as if by wireless, and I instantly come to their rescue. I can cure, save, even resurrect people provided they are in a spiritually receptive condition. It is like the positive and negative currents of electricity. My capacity to heal can be compared to the positive current. Your devotion to me is the negative current. Once the two come together, the devotion provides what is called the miracle of healing. It is man's mind that is really responsible for his illness or health. He himself is the cause or motivator of either. So when it comes to healing or curing, the necessary faith has to be created within his mind for the purpose. All I do is invest him with the confidence, will, and power to cure himself. It is my abounding love reciprocated by the intensity of the devotee's faith in me that produces the desired result. The godliness which is present in everybody in the form of a little spark exists in me as the full flame. It is my mission to develop every little spark of God in everyone to the fullness of the divine flame. The first imperative of this development is that the receiver of the grace also provides from his or her side the devotion necessary to the consummation. Those who carry the presence of Baba in their hearts, like an indwelling God, belong to this kind of devotee. They come to me, see me, and hear me, experience my love for them, and receive it with devotion. Thus, they become part of me in my divinity. To the doubting or confused ones, I give this illustration. Those who want to secure pearls from the sea have to dive deep to fetch them. It does not help them to dabble among the shallow waves near the shore and say that the sea has no pearls and all stories about them are false. Likewise, if a person wants to secure the love and grace of this avatar, he must also dive deep and get submerged in Sai Baba. Then only will he become one with me and carry me in his innermost heart. Today, evil is so widespread that humanity itself would be destroyed in a nuclear holocaust in the event of a world war. It is to prevent such a catastrophe that this avatar has come to raise human consciousness and save the world from disaster. There are two ways in which an avatar can help people avert calamities: an instant solution as against a long-term one. Any instant solution would go against the fundamental quality of nature itself, as well as the karmic law of cause and effect. Most people live in the material world of their desires and egos, which is governed by this law. They reap the fruits of their actions. This brings about their evolution or devolution. If the avatar intervenes to instantly solve their problems, it would stop all action, development, even evolution. This solution can be ruled out because it totally negates the natural laws. The other and more effective alternative presents a long-term solution whereby the avatar leads the people themselves to a higher level of consciousness to enable them to understand the truth of spiritual laws. This will relate them back to nature and the karmic law of causation. They would then transcend the cycle of cause and effect in which today they are involved as victims, and thereby command and control the natural forces to be able to avert calamities like earthquakes, floods, droughts, famine, and epidemics. If the avatar brings calamities to an immediate end, which I can and do, when there is a great need, the whole drama of creation with its karmic law will collapse. These calamities occur not because of what God has made of man, but really because of what man has made of man. Therefore, man has to be unmade and remade with his ego destroyed and replaced by a transcendent consciousness, so that he may rise above the karmic cycle to command nature and avert its calamities. This is the work of the avatar, which I am presently doing.
There is only one caste of humanity. There is only one religion of love. There is only one God, is omnipresent.